The movie starts with 17-year-old Bella Swan leaving her mother, Renee, in Phoenix, Arizona, to spend some time with her father in Washington. Her father, Charlie Swan, the chief of police, picks her up in a police car. They finally get home to a small town called Forks. Bella's relationship with her father is cool, even though she hasn't seen him in several years. He shows her to her room and leaves. Bella hears a car horn and checks from the window. It is her father's friend, Billy Black, and his son, Jacob. Charlie surprises her with the gift of a red pickup truck he purchased from Billy Black. The next day, Bella goes to her new school in her new car, which gets people's attention. She is approached by Eric Yorkie, who calls himself the school's eyes and ears. Later, Bella unintentionally hits Mike with a ball. She goes to apologize, and they introduce themselves to each other. Another girl, Jessica, also joins the conversation. Bella meets other students during lunch and has a little conversation. A group of students enters the cafeteria, and Bella asks who they are. One of them is Edward Cullen. Edward and the other students are foster kids of Dr. Carlisle Cullen and his wife, Esme. From the moment Edward lays eyes on her, he can't stop scowling at her. Bella goes to her next class and sees Edward. Her stepping in front of the classroom fan makes him react as though he's getting sick. The two are paired together, and things get awkward. After Edward storms out the door when the bell rings, Bella is puzzled as to what she could have done to anger him. She then overhears him in the office attempting to transfer out of the biology class. The next day, Bella waits outside of the school to confront Edward and ask him what his problem is. However, she doesn't get the chance because he is absent for the next several days. When Edward does return to school, he seems changed. He introduces himself to Bella and asks her about herself. After class, Bella notices that his eyes seem a different color than previously, and he answers awkwardly before walking away. Later that day, as Bella is about to get into her truck, she sees Edward staring at her from the other side. One of the students in his car careens out of control in the school parking lot. Within seconds, Edward has crossed the lot, pulled Bella out of the way, and seemingly stopped the car with his bare hand, leaving Bella more puzzled than before. She is then taken to the hospital and examined by Edward's dad, Dr. Carlisle. She later hears Edward talking to his parents about her in the hallway. She asks to talk to him, and when she tries to ask Edward how he was able to stop the car, he refuses to talk about it and leaves. The next day, Bella continues to ask him about the incident, but he simply chalks it up to an adrenaline rush. Later, Edward approaches her and says that they probably shouldn't even be friends. Bella and her friends make plans to go surfing at La Push Beach on the Indian reservation, so she asks Edward to go with her, but he rejects the offer. At the beach, they are joined by Jacob Black and two of his friends from the reservation. They learn that Edward Cullen was supposed to be Bella's date. One of Jacob's friends remarks, "The Cullens don't come here." Later, Bella asks Jacob what was meant by that remark, and Jacob tells her of a Quileute legend that says the Quileutes are descended from wolves, whereas the Cullens are descended from an enemy clan. The legend also goes that the Quileutes and the Cullens made a pact that required the Cullens to stay off Quileute land in exchange for the Quileutes keeping it secret what the Cullens really were. Although Jacob calls it just an old story, Bella suspects otherwise. She Googles Quileute legends and notices that there is a bookstore in Port Angeles that sells several books on Quileute legends. Later, she accompanies her new friends, Jessica Stanley and Angela Weber, when they decide to go shopping in Port Angeles for their prom dresses. She uses that opportunity to go and purchase the book. After purchasing her books, Bella heads to the restaurant where she planned to meet Jessica and Angela for dinner before heading back to Forks. Along the way, however, she is stopped by four guys with no good intentions. Suddenly, Edward drives up, forces the guys to back off, and orders Bella to get into the car. When Edward and Bella finally join Jessica and Angela, the girls have already eaten. Edward offers to see that Bella gets some dinner and then drive her home, so Jessica and Angela take off, giving them a chance to talk privately. Edward reveals that he was following Bella because he has developed very protective feelings toward her. He also lets it slip that he could read what was in the minds of those lowlifes and that he can read just about anyone's mind, except for hers. On the drive back to Forks, Bella accidentally touches Edward's hand and is amazed at how cold it is. As they pass the Forks Police Department, they see several police cars, including that of Bella's father, with their lights flashing. Dr. Cullen's car is also there, so Bella and Edward stop to see what's happening. They learn from Carlisle that the body of Waylon Forge, a good friend of her father, was just found lying in a boat, dead from what looks like an animal attack. This is the second animal attack to happen near Forks. Later, after Bella has returned home with her father, she starts paging through the books she purchased and comes across a Quileute legend about the Cold One. Googling it, she learns that the Cold One, aka Potemkin, is a fanged creature, described as undead, immortal, possessing incredible speed, strength, and cold skin. It is said to drink human blood and is variously equated with other legends about vampires. The next day, Bella confronts Edward with her findings. He doesn't deny it. He takes her to the top of a mountain, out of the cloud bank, and shows her how a vampire's skin sparkles in the sunlight. He explains how the Cullen family has learned to live on animal blood and consider themselves vegetarian vampires. Still, he's a killer, he says, and admits that his hostile reaction to her is because her blood smelled so appetizing that he wanted to kill her and feed on her. He's never wanted a human's blood as much as he wants hers. Bella replies that she doesn't care and insists she trusts him to maintain control. Edward goes on to explain that Carlisle turned him in 1918 when he was dying of Spanish influenza. The relationship between Bella and Edward progresses to the point where they drive to school together. Edward decides to take Bella home to meet his family. But suddenly, he announces complications, gets into his car, and drives away. As Billy and Jacob are arriving at Bella's house, Edward's car passes theirs, and he exchanges suspicious, wary glares with the two. The next day, Edward brings Bella to the Cullen home, a beautiful house on the outskirts of town. Upstairs, Bella finds the Cullens preparing a meal for her. Most of the Cullens are super welcoming to Bella. One rainy afternoon, Edward takes Bella out to play baseball with his family. In the middle of the game, three figures come walking out of the mist. Fearfully, the Cullens regroup, hiding Bella behind them. The intruders are the rogue vampires who have been feasting on humans, including Waylon Forge. They introduce themselves as Laurent, Victoria, and James and ask whether they can join the Cullens for a game. Thinking quickly, Carlisle agrees, saying that some of the family were leaving, and Laurent and the others can take their places. A cue for Edward to get Bella safely away before she is detected. Everyone moves back into the field to take their places. But suddenly, the wind shifts so that James catches Bella's scent and realizes that there is a human in their midst. He sneers and heads toward Bella. Edward jumps between them. Laurent backs off and agrees to leave, taking James and Victoria with him. "Get Bella out of here," Carlisle warns Edward. As they quickly drive away, Edward explains to Bella that James is a tracker. Bella's only salvation is if they can get to James first, rip him apart, and burn the pieces. Edward's plan is to catch a ferry to Vancouver, BC. But Bella insists on going home first. When Bella gets home, she runs into the house and slams the front door, shouting, "It's over!" at Edward. She then informs her father that she's got to get away from here now. She packs a night bag and, against her father's protests, gets in the truck and they drive away. Unfortunately, James has already tracked Bella to Charlie's house and is on their trail. First, they stop at the Cullens' house, where Laurent has shown up to warn them about James and Victoria. The plan now is for Alice and Jasper to drive Bella south, while the others, including Rosalie and Esme dressed in Bella's clothes, attempt to create a false trail through the woods. It doesn't take long, however, for James to realize that he's been duped. When James changes his course, Alice senses the change and has a vision of James heading to a ballet studio in Phoenix where Bella once took lessons. While Jasper and Alice check them into a hotel in Phoenix, Bella gets a call on her cell phone from her mother. James comes on the line and informs Bella that he got her Phoenix address from Forks High School and arrived there just as her worried mother also got there. Bella takes a taxi to the studio. When she gets there, she finds that it was a trick. James got an old movie from her house, and it was only Renee's voice Bella was hearing. James then taunts her further by threatening to film their time together to break Edward's heart. As the camera rolls, James bats Bella around the room, then breaks her leg. Suddenly, Edward shows up, having gotten there faster than the others because of his greater speed. With their vampire strength, James and Edward toss each other around the room, breaking mirrors and windows with the impact of their bodies. At one point, James manages to swoop down on Bella and bite her arm. Just then, Carlisle, Alice, Emmett, and Jasper show up. Alice races to Bella's side, while Carlisle pulls Edward off James, telling him that Bella needs him more. Overpowered by the smell of Bella's blood, Alice asks Carlisle to take over for her. While Carlisle bends over Bella, Alice breaks James' neck. and she, Jasper, and Emmett start a fire to burn his body. Carlisle says that Bella's femoral artery is severed and she's losing a lot of blood, and the vampire venom has begun to affect her. Edward has a decision to make: either let the change happen or suck out the venom. Edward refuses to allow the change, so he decides to suck out the venom, even though it means he might not be able to stop. When Bella awakens, she is in the hospital, her mother at her side and Edward asleep in a chair. Bella claims not to remember anything that happened. When Renee leaves to get Charlie, who's waiting in the hospital cafeteria, Edward quickly wakes up. He tells Bella that they took care of James and that Victoria ran off. He also tells her that he wants Bella to move to Jacksonville with her mother so that she can't be hurt anymore by her association with him, but Bella refuses. Bella moves back to Forks with her dad. With her leg still in a cast, Bella attends the prom with Edward. When Edward goes off to park the car, Jacob sits down next to Bella. He tells her that his father wants her to break up with Edward and that he sent a warning. Later, as Bella and Edward dance in the gazebo, she asks him why he didn't let her turn. "If you just let the venom spread," she says, "I could be like you by now." She informs him that she's made the decision to be with him forever and offers him her neck. Edward bends over to bite her neck, but ends up simply kissing it. The movie ends as Victoria watches the two from a window overlooking the gazebo. She turns away, lets down her hair, and smiles to herself. Thank you for watching. Check out these videos.